From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefania Bravo, and this is From the South. With the electricity restored in almost all of Venezuela, community organizations are working to restore basic services and to make sure food is available for everyone. The programs that have been providing the most help are the local committees for supplies and production, also known as CLAPs. Let's take a look.
In this neighborhood, high in the hills of Caracas, people are waiting for the arrival of a truck full of food for the community. They're expectant but calm, thanks to their long tradition of community organizing. Such organization has been put to the test in recent days with the massive power outage caused by an attack on Venezuela's power grid.
The latest sabotage was really bad. We have senior citizens here, but thankfully the Bolivarian government gave us a straight answer. There have been ups and downs, but the issue is being resolved and we continue moving forward.
Families are organizing as part of the local committees for supplies and production, also known as CLAPs. They were created 3 years ago during a state of emergency to face the economic war waged against Venezuela.
The CLAPs provide us with basic goods: flour, rice, sugar, grains, oil, pasta, canned tuna. This allows us to go on and keep food on our table.
In this warehouse, 35,000 clap boxes arrive daily. From here, they go to 19 of the 24 parishes in Caracas every 2 weeks. 300,000 families receive their clap box, regardless of whether they support the government or the opposition.
The CLAP came together thanks to social organizing, and they were formed to fight the economic war. Thanks to the CLAPs, we have created an efficient distribution system. They help us fight speculation and smuggling. We have managed to move our economy forward by overcoming the economic war.
Communities are involved in every part of this process.
We are guaranteeing food for my community. We are doing fine, thanks to my commander.
People have raised their own consciousness in order to withstand the onset of those who want to see the Bolivarian revolution crumble. The quality of our work has only improved, as has the cooperation between Venezuelans.
Following the attack on the country's power grid, the authorities have redoubled efforts to distribute clap boxes. Due to the emergency circumstances, 170,000 boxes will be distributed, of which 95% are financed by the government.
A few will want to take this happiness away from us, but they will fail because we are a country of love, of solidarity. We stand together against the war they are desperate for.
What they don't know is that we are a conscientious people. Our eyes are open, thanks to Chavez. He opened our eyes. They haven't succeeded yet, and will continue to fail.
This dense social tapestry that makes up so much of Venezuelan society remains invisible to the mainstream and corporate media.
China has offered to help Venezuela restore power as the country continues to restore its power grid.
There are reports saying that the system affected by this accident was the Venezuelan national power grid, which was hacked. This is also what we saw written in relevant reports. China is deeply concerned about this event.
At least 10 people are dead after 2 gunmen opened fire inside a school in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Among them are 5 students, a school official, and the 2 attackers who committed suicide. At least another 17 were injured. The attack reportedly happened during break time at the Professor Raul Brazil State School in Suzano. The motive is still unknown, but this comes 2 months after far-right President Jair Bolsonaro loosened gun control laws. Activists in Brazil staged a demonstration to demand justice for a murdered counselor, Marielle Franco, and her driver. 2 barefoot women wiped the mock, blood-stained ground in front of a cage to call for complete transparency in the case. 2 former police officers were arrested in connection with the murder. Franco was an outspoken critic of the police and paramilitary militias.
The objective is to demand the complete transparency of the murder of the Belaria Marielle from the public power. We understand that there are people with a lot of power behind that crime, in addition to executives. We want to know who the intellectual actors of that murder were.
Over 800 women from Brazil's landless workers movement have occupied land owned by the religious leader João de Deus. He's accused of sexually assaulting hundreds of women. The members of the MST took over one of his farms near Anápolis in the state of Goiás in the center of Brazil. The occupation is part of a campaign of mobilization by the MST women, which started last week throughout the country. Our correspondent Danay Galetti has more from the occupation.
The women's slogan for this campaign of occupation is, "We are all Marielle." The women here are mostly from the landless worker movement, and they begin to mobilize on International Women's Day on the 8th of March. They are inspired by the example of Marielle Franco, who was murdered on the 14th of March last year, and we still don't know who ordered her killing. She was an elected representative from the Socialism and Liberty Party, and a prominent campaigner for the rights of the LGBT and Black Brazilian communities, as well as for women's rights. These 800 women from the MST and other rural movements have occupied this land belonging to João de Deus, a religious psychic who has been accused of sexual assault and harassment against more than 500 women of different nationalities. The women want this land to become part of the land reform program, which gives Brazilian rural workers the right to a decent plot of land. Other demands of these women include an end to violence against women and femicide, equal pay for women, and the suspension of the government's pension reform, which would force women to work much longer. These rural women see themselves as workers, and they say they will stay here until the land is handed over to the MST, which has been fighting for decades for a land, a struggle that cost many deaths over the years. For example, in just 1 year, in 2007, more than 50 people were killed in land conflicts.
Grenada is commemorating the 40th anniversary of its unarmed revolution that overthrew the U.S.-backed Union Labor Party. On March 13, 1979, the New Jewel movement, led by Maurice Bishop, staged a nearly bloodless coup. Bishop, a lawyer by profession, was then installed as Prime Minister of a newly established People's Revolutionary Movement. In his first speech as PM, Bishop said to the people of Grenada, "This revolution is for work, food, decent housing, and health services, and for a bright future for our children and great-grandchildren." To explain the regional and global significance of the 1979 revolution in Grenada and to tell us how the landmark 40th anniversary is being commemorated, we are joined by Ruggles Ferguson in the capital, St. George. He's the head of the Grenada Revolution Committee. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. What is the legacy of the revolution, and how has it impacted the people of Grenada?
Yes, thank you. The revolution, described as a big revolution in a small country, imploded in October 1983. Came to power, the PRG came to power on March 13, 1979, 40 years ago. And in the 4.5 years of revolution, that very short space of time, the revolution has been able to impact significantly in all spheres of society. Infrastructure development. In fact, the single largest economic project was undertaken, even single largest up to today. That's the construction of the international airport. We have had the Center for Popular Education. That is the literacy program that is designed to ensure that each and every single Grenadian, irrespective of age, was able to read and write. You had housing programs, you had the establishment of institutions like the Market National and Importing Board for farmers, marketing of farmers' produce. You had the development of agro-industries. For the first time, Grenada started to export nectars, mango nectar, tamarind nectar, guava nectar, and a range of agro-industrial products. And the revolution, there was an explosion in education. In the first year of the revolution, there were 109 scholarships awarded as opposed to 3 the previous year. You also had the establishment of the National Insurance Scheme, which survives up to today. So the revolution has impacted on almost all facets of Grenadian society in just 4.5 years. And that is why this year, to mark the landmark 40th anniversary of the revolution, there are several activities planned by a broad-based group of individuals, and those activities include, and we had one major one going already, Champs in Concert, that's with the Kings, Calypso Kings, over the last several years, together with Brother Valentino, one of the progressive Calypsonians, progressive lyrics from Trinidad. That was on Saturday gone. This afternoon, we have the opening of the exhibition, which will run for 3 days in Norton Hall, and it's a digital exhibition on various aspects of life during the revolution in Grenada, highlighting the several areas of benefit, impact on agriculture, tourism, on the economy. And that exhibition runs from 11 to 7 every day, Wednesday, today until Friday. Last evening, we had the 4th annual Martin's lecture, and that was introduced in 2015. And we had as the guest speaker, former Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Dr. Kenny Anthony, who spoke on the topic, the impact of the Grenada Revolution on the region, the St. Lucia experience. And that, of course, was a very dynamic presentation by Dr. Anthony, which was well received by the audience. There are several other activities, community projects, activities in health. Several of the Cuban trained doctors giving back with attendance throughout health clinics throughout the length and breadth of Grenada between March 1st and March 31st. And the activities will climax on in May with a conference, an academic conference, beginning on May 27th, which is African Liberation Day, and ending on May 29th, which represents the 75th birthday of former Prime Minister Maurice Bishop. And that academic conference is expected to attract persons locally, regionally, and internationally. The theme for the conference is celebration, commemoration, and critique, looking at all perspectives, the positives, the negatives of the revolution. But what is happening is really an engagement, learning the lessons of the past, embracing the positives, rejecting the negatives, but learning the lessons of the past. March 13th is part of our history, and it's important that we share the knowledge of the period, especially to the younger generation, the students and youth of the country who had not experienced that period. The final point I would wish to make, because I know time is limited, is that that period represented an explosion in people's democracy throughout the country, where you had now zonal and parish council meetings almost every month involving the people in all the parishes and various communities, where the persons from the government, the public officials, will come to report on several areas, whether it has to do with health, education, infrastructure, the roads. People ask questions, make recommendations. And that was one of the unique features of the 1979 period, as the leaders of the day then, symbolized by Maurice Bishop, always said that Westminster democracy, in a sense, represented 5-second democracy every 5 years. And what we had during that period is really genuine people's democracy, where people would participate, not just vote every 5 years, and for the next 5 years have nothing to do with the running of the country, but where people in a consistent, structured, and institutionalized manner were able to participate in the activities of the country.
Ruggles, thank you so much for your time and your input for Telesur English.
Thank you.
Let's take a short break now. Welcome back, and now we head back to Venezuela, where our correspondent in Caracas, Laura Prada, brings us up to date as electricity and services are nearly fully restored.
Hello, yes, nice to greet you. In fact, we are right now at the east of the city at a mall, the Millennium Mall here in Caracas, in Venezuela. As you can see behind me, shops are open. As you can see, this mall, people are coming, buying in, stores are open. Also, as you can see, the electric situation here in the country is gradually is stabilizing throughout the country, specifically here in Caracas. As we said in the past few days, there are still some places that haven't arrived yet electricity, but the government and the Corpolec, the electric company, is working to reestablish this, the power energy in those places. Also, President Maduro yesterday met with the government members, and he said that a group of them will be leading an investigation commission to clarify what happened and in which way that attack affected the electric system here in Venezuela, and to take prevention measures to prevent if future attacks happens. Also, in that meeting, he denounced the attack, and he also declared today another day of pause of break from work and scholar activities. As you can also see behind me, here are people waiting for the bus to go to their places. This is a very popular place where people take transportation to other parts of the city, which are in the outsides of the city. Also, young people here are playing with their skateboards because, as we were saying, it's a day when schools are closed, but traffic is flowing calmly. We cannot say yet that everything is normal, because here everything is stabilized. The electric power is stabilized. Water is arriving. Water service is arriving slowly, but to the capital city and to other parts. So everything is. We can say that Venezuela, that Caracas is recovering from this electrical attack that suffered last Thursday, when the main hydroelectrical plant of the country, the Guri plant, suffered this cybernetic and electromagnetic attack. We've been here reporting for us, for you, and of course we'll continue here and we'll keep updating everything, how the situation develops and how Venezuela recovers from this attack, and how the people are resisting and, of course, coming out of this problem.
That was Laura Prada from Caracas. And now let's head over to Nigeria, where at least 10 people have died and 40 people have been rescued after a building housing a school collapsed in Lagos Island. Frantic rescue efforts are still underway. Dozens of children are among those feared trapped. About 100 students were in the 3-story building when it came down. The governor of Lagos, who visited the scene, says the school was operating illegally. He blamed the landlord for resisting government's demolition plan.
But for now, we can only talk about the number of people that we have rescued, which is in the excess of 40, and then we are still rescuing more.
For more, we spoke to journalist Deji Badmus in Lagos to find out more about the situation.
Well, people have been helping. To be candid, I must tell you that the rescue situation is a bit chaotic. Chaotic in the sense that crowd control at the scene is quite very poor. Too many people living around. That place is actually densely populated. So most of the rescue is done by the first responders, people around the area who are actually helping the official rescue agencies. But the whole process is not well coordinated at all. In any case, people have been brought out. But to be candid, it's a bit chaotic and not organized. The area is densely populated. Quite difficult to move in heavy-duty rescue equipment there. It took a lot of time, for instance, to move in one of the heavy-duty rescue equipment to the site, and it's really a problem. It's a problem, and it's actually nothing new, because that area of the city is prone to incidents like this. As a matter of fact, I would say 90% of the building collapse we've had in this city is actually around that area, and people are wondering why the authorities has actually not done much about the situation there. The fact is, from what we're gathering, that building was actually bad. It was marked for demolition. We understand the authorities had actually, that's the building control agency in the city, had marked the building for demolition. Now, why they did not demolish the building is what no one knows, and why people were still making use of the building after it had been marked for demolition is very difficult to tell. But it's actually common. It's common to have a situation like that where you would have buildings marked for demolition, but the demolition would not be carried out, and then you still have people use the building. So.
One of South Africa's largest banks has come under fire after being accused of discrimination. A special investigation by a group of journalists revealed that the First National Bank charged black clients 40% more than white clients for their loans. The South African Federation of Trade Unions has said it will take the bank to court to ensure that it is held accountable. And a financial investigator in Cape Town, South Africa, says he has proof of the discrimination, and he says more banks are doing the same. Emerald Van Zyl is now calling on the court to take action against First National Bank. However, the bank has refuted claims, calling them baseless accusations. The bank claims the allegations were dismissed in 2013 by the Supreme Court. Hundreds of workers employed by foreign companies in the Democratic Republic of the Congo have gone on strike protesting against what they are calling slave-like working conditions. The workers have accused the foreign companies of paying them salaries below the country's minimum wage and denying them benefits that are enshrined by the labor law. The workers have appealed to President Felix Tshisekedi to come to their aid.
We ask Indians to respect workers' rights. We are suffering here in Congo. Lebanese, Chinese, the wages are mediocre. The working conditions, we work in difficult conditions.
Guinea-Bissau's ruling party has scooped 42 seats out of 102 in the legislative election, according to the country's National Electoral Commission. However, the party needs to rely on other parties to command a majority rule. The African Party for the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde has ruled 45 years, and the president's fifth term ends in June. The number of people that have been killed in floods in Malawi has risen to 56, while thousands of households have been forced to evacuate their homes. The floods have left entire villages underwater in the south of the country, damaging infrastructure such as roads, power, and water supplies. Meanwhile, the country's meteorological department has warned of more rains and flooding between Thursday and Sunday. British MPs have chosen to reject a no-deal Brexit in any scenario. The so-called Spellman Amendment was passed by 312 votes to 308. It essentially means the UK rejects leaving the European Union without a deal in any circumstance. They are still to vote on the government's substantive motion, which originally only rejected leaving without a deal on March 29th. On Thursday, the House of Commons is set to vote on a possible delay to Brexit.
The ayes have it. Unlock. The ayes to the right, 312. The noes to the left, 308. So the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Unlock.
President Trump's former campaign chief, Paul Manafort, has been sentenced to 43 more months in prison on charges relating to the Russia investigation. This is the second time he's been sentenced following the conviction for fraud in a separate case stemming from the same Russia probe. This means that Manafort will now spend 7.5 years behind bars. Peruvian scientists are putting high hopes in tiny algae developing a new method to clean polluted lakes and rivers across the country. Biologists at the National University of San Marcos in Lima are creating super microalgae boosted with nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium to remove mineral contaminations from fresh water. Mining is the heart of the Peruvian economy, but also the main source of pollution. Scientists have already identified plants they can clean polluted soil, and I hope to get funding to apply the same method to clean lakes and rivers. And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.